The upper thermocouple is at 107, the lower is at 82. 113.92, 115.104. These are all in Fahrenheit, by the way. I suppose I really should read all this stuff in centigrade, since that's what the rest of the world does. And these thermocouple amplifiers in here are capable of directly giving me the centigrade or Fahrenheit. The ambient temperature is 73 degrees. We had almost an inch of rain overnight. These temperatures shouldn't be producing any gas to speak of. I don't know if you can see the smoke rings being blown out of here. There really shouldn't be. $133 at the top, 116. And I'm reading hardly any vacuum at all. Well, this system, I never have totally understood it. The water in the bottom of the tank here is kind of bouncing up and down like this. So we get funny readings all over the place. 140 above, 120 below. Nice and red inside. I should be adding fuel, but I'm going to show you what's going on down there. And you can see the smoke coming out. But that's what's happening. I better get back to work here. I'm surprised. I would have thought that would have been a lot hotter already. The instructions say to fill her up pretty good once you get that red glow down there. So I did. Maybe I'll wish I hadn't. 299, 131. That smoke should not light, I'm thinking, but let's see what happens. Son of a gun. It lights. It's going putt, 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 and I don't know if you can see, but my little glow plug is bouncing up and down. This is the output pressure gauge. With this full open, it's bouncing between 0 and about 4 inches of water column plus. $498 above, 212 below. That's a long, long way from what ought to be happening. Pressure, thermocouple 3. Or I'm sorry, pressure sensor 3, which is hooked to the output here, is varying all over the map. But it's a positive pressure, and it goes from 0 to as high as 2.5 inches water column. It should be sort of emulating that gauge, but it's just taking data every 5 seconds. The vacuum, which is at the bottom side of the grate, is varying also. From essentially no vacuum to about 3/4 of an inch. and various readings in between. Okay, it's now 12:31. We're 136 minutes into the test. Things are getting plugged up again. The flare, I believe, is still running. Whoop, it just went out. It relit, but the pressure is really miserable. And it stayed lit, surprisingly, but I don't think you'd be boiling a whole lot of water. I just don't think there's a lot of heat coming out. Again, the pressure is quite low. And one of the learnings I think I've made is that when this gets clogged, which is what I think has happened, it screws up the balance between the second and the third tank. And so when things aren't clogged, the blower is sucking really hard on the center tank, and when it's off, the two tanks are at the same level because they're common underneath a kind of I don't know, piece of sheet metal that dips down into the level of the water to separate the tanks when there's no pressure difference. So when the blower goes on and there's a lot of suction, that sucks up to the point where air can get under this baffle, and I guess, and then the water falls down. So this is what's going on, I think, all the time normally when there's quite a bit of suction. That's the gurgling sound. But as we lose suction, the water can't build up in the center tank as much, and so it just kind of comes more level. And what that means is that my little float that you can't see, when we were running well, the top of my little float was probably a ½ inch below the top of the opening. Now it's a ½ inch above the top of the opening, which says that these water levels are very much different. The flare is out. I can't hardly feel anything, can't hardly see anything on that gauge. I get a reading of 0.14 to 0.22, but that's pretty close to zip. And if I watch the vacuum readings on this side, there's a minus 0.07 and a 0. And a 0, which really, that's so close to the bottom of the range that it's hard, it just doesn't really count. So I think it's kind of all over. And one of the things that you can tell, since there's no suction, there's a fire still going in here, but all this smoke, it isn't being sucked through the system, okay? Now I've actually made flames